Hello, welcome if you're watching in the UK or around the world. The rules around travelling into the UK have been tightened again in a bid to control the spread of the new Omicron variant of Covid. The British government says the move is necessary because of an increase in cases of the strain which are directly linked to foreign travel. Anyone arriving into the UK from Tuesday morning will need proof of a negative Covid test taken within 48 hours prior to departure. They'll also need to take a PCR test before the end of their second day in the UK and will have to self-isolate until they receive their negative test result. The travel industry has strongly criticised the move, with one industry executive saying the introduction of pre-departure testing with little warning is a hammer blow. Meanwhile, Nigeria is to be added to the UK government's travel red list from tomorrow morning. Anyone arriving into the UK from a red list country will need to pay for and self-isolate in a pre-booked government-approved hotel for 10 days. Our business correspondent Katie Prescott reports.
Travel testing is changing. Only a few days ago, the Transport Secretary told The Telegraph holidaymakers won't be asked to take pre-departure Covid tests.
I see the opposition calling for, lock it all down, pre-departure tests, pile the cost on the traveller. I don't want us to go back to the bad old days. And so we've a calibrated response, which is an up to 2-day PCR test, which, by the way, you can take as you come through the airport or as you're on your way home.
Now, pre-departure testing has arrived as the new variant of the virus spreads.
We've also decided to require pre-departure tests. That's for all inward travellers. That will be effective from 4 a.m. on Tuesday, and they will be required a maximum of 48 hours before the departure time. That we've been clear that we will take action if it is necessary, but it is important that whilst we are introducing these new border measures today, that to remember that vaccinations, they are our first line of defence, and the booster programme, the expansion in the booster programme is hugely important.
From Monday, Nigeria will be added to the red list. Only UK citizens will be able to enter the country from Nigeria, and they'll have to pay to quarantine on arrival. The problem is, there might not be enough quarantine hotels available. The travel industry is furious, saying the changing advice will knock people's willingness and confidence to travel. They say it's another devastating blow.
Our concern is we know pre-departure tests are hugely damaging to confidence. They're a major barrier to travel. We saw that before. We think it's premature to introduce those tests when we still know so little, and we've already got the red list being used, and we've got those day 2 PCR tests.
These are temporary measures and will be looked at again in 3 weeks' time, on the 20th of December. Katie Prescott, BBC News.
Well, joining me now is Graham Butt from the Travel Association, ABTA. Welcome, thanks for joining us. What do you think about the pre-travel testing now?
Well, it's come in very last minute. We're not here really to question the science behind it, but I do think the government needs to recognise the impact this is going to have on both travellers and the travel industry as well. Now, this is a sector that was just about beginning to get back on its feet. We've now had 2 big changes to travel rules within the space of a week. And while we understand that there may be scientific and medical reasons as to why we need to do that, the government really does have to step up, recognise the impact this may have on travel, and look afresh at providing some support for the travel industry for those who might need it.
What sort of support would you like to see?
Well, the last time we had pre-departure tests in place, furlough was still running. So one thing that could happen for the travel sector is for furlough to be brought back. And the other is a specific grants programme that those in the travel industry will be able to apply for. So we're not asking for something broad brush and sweeping, something here to stay forever. And we do recognise that the government says that these measures are meant to be temporary, but I think their impact could be such that we will need to look at those kind of measures being brought in for some of those in travel. Are
there any avenues of conversation open on that between you and the government?
Well, at ABTA, we speak with the government regularly and have been asking for support for the travel sector for some time now, because travel was the most affected sector during the peak of the pandemic. We saw incomes fall by 90% during that time. So this is not a sector that has a lot of money to fall back on, and now these changes have come back in. It was a sector, as I say, beginning to get back on its feet, and now finding no doubt that there'll be a further drop in consumer confidence. So yes, we speak to the government all the time. We'd like perhaps the government to respond a bit more to what we have to say.
Where is customer confidence right now? I mean, how was Christmas travel looking, and is it too early to get a sense of whether people are thinking about cancelling plans that they'd already made.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly too early to see what the impact of this today evening's announcement will be, albeit we know in the summer that it was pre-departure tests which were cited by people as perhaps the main reason for not travelling. So you can tell with some confidence, I think, that the impact will not be good. In terms of the announcement on PCR tests coming back to the UK, what we've seen from some of our members in the last week were that people who had already booked were still prepared to go ahead, but new bookings were starting to be affected a bit. So we don't have exact figures, but we know it won't be good. And that's why, as we say, the government really does need to speak afresh to the travel industry to see what support it can provide as a result of the measures that it's bringing in.
If no support is forthcoming, what could things look like?
Obviously, we need to look at how consumer confidence is affected overall. But as I say, we have various people in the travel industry, particularly some smaller players who were affected greatly by events earlier this year. They don't have a lot of money to fall back on. What we might be looking at are more job losses, redundancies, etc. Let's not forget that this travel is, I can't think of another business sector that's actually being affected by these temporary Omicron measures in this way. And that's why we really do have a special case to get some support here to avoid that kind of scenario happening.
Graham Buck from ABTA, thank you.